everyone to be able to get on. I forgot that when you do these lives, for whatever reason, it ends up like cutting off at the very beginning. So if anyone is joining right now, anybody watching through the replay, I'm gonna go ahead and announce what we're gonna be talking about tonight. So tonight's video is gonna be on the subject of misery is a choice. I posted something today and it had such an incredible response on TikTok. And I said, you know what, let me go ahead and just jump on YouTube. I want to keep doing lives for y'all. I'm going to go ahead and list all the subjects that we talked about yesterday because I did rewatch the video I did yesterday on the live. Because there's some videos that I'm probably going to do immediately. There's some of those that I might do live, and then there's some I think I might just upload. But if you are watching this, make sure you click on the like to give this video a thumbs up, tap that thumbs up to give it a like, and leave me a comment below, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all of my new subscribers, still been getting more new subscribers, so shout outs to everybody who's watching this on the replay. So yeah, tonight we're gonna be talking about misery is a choice, and I'm hoping that my lighting doesn't screw me up because the lighting, I did go live like an hour later than I did yesterday, and like the lighting is kind of, I have like my little setup here, but I'm hoping that it doesn't get dark soon, so please forgive me. We're just gonna do our best here. So I wanted to talk about this, and I think it's very important for people to understand that being miserable is a choice. A lot of times people don't want to grow, people don't want to do the work, people don't want to get out of their own way. And it's very unfortunate because unfortunately we live in a day and age where there's this idea of people glorifying suffering. I call it glorified suffering, where people love to suffer for the sake of suffering. Not all suffering produces glory. Not all suffering is God. And I think that's something that people are being delivered from and people are realizing. But at the same time, there are a lot of things that I think a lot of people are missing in translation or not understanding. We live in a world where people feel very entitled. People feel like they're owed certain things, but they don't want to put in the effort to do things. They don't want to put the effort in to grow. And a lot of times people who are prideful are operating out of ego and even entitlement. Sometimes you may think, well, I'm willing to do what I have to do to get to the other side, but you may be really willing to do it in one area and not another, right? So you have to understand that in this life, you are not entitled to anything just because you think you're good at something, just because you think you're better than someone. Hello to everyone getting on. Hi there. Thank you to whoever gave me the thumbs up. I appreciate you. Anybody else watching, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. We have to be very careful with those type of things. So I want to start with the first thing, which is that mindset and perspective is everything. So oftentimes we hear that saying, right? Your mindset, your perspective is absolutely everything. And I think a lot of times people do not understand just how much your mindset can limit you. A lot of people seek for this higher level of understanding, whether it's spirituality, whether it's self-help growth, and it's very performative, right? But the thing about really honestly growing and becoming different is that you have to understand that it's a lot of self-sacrifice. It's not glamorous. I think the problem is that a lot of times people put this look of it to make it look very glamorous. And unfortunately, it isn't glamorous. It isn't glamorous to change. It isn't glamorous to go through the mud, essentially, you know. And a lot of people, in order to get to the other side, especially if you weren't born into privilege, if you don't have help, if you haven't been in a position to just have whatever you want at your fingertips, right? You have to be willing to go through the mud. You got to get out the mud. You got to get out the dirt to get to the other side of things. And so a lot of times people don't understand, like, people go through things, right? Like, we all go through stuff. We all experience things. And we don't realize, like, a lot of times people will say things like, oh, you know, certain things are not helpful to say, or like if somebody's going through a hard time, that's not the right time to say, well, just change your perspective or your attitude or whatever. But honestly, as a person who I've been through so many different things, I could tell y'all that even when you're going through a really hard time, even if you feel like life is not working in your favor, your perspective will help you. Like, there's nothing worse than if you're already in a jacked up, messed up situation for you to also have a poor attitude on top of that. Like, I feel like a lot of people don't understand, like, your mindset, your perspective, the way you speak over yourself, the way you speak over other people and your situation or your situations is so, so important. The Bible even says that there's power and death in our tongue, right? So you can well, there's power, there's life and death in the tongue, right? And so you have to understand that one of the biggest things you have to change is how you speak. A lot of miserable people, they will always tell on themselves. And even the Bible says that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So one of the biggest things you need to change is how you talk. And that's a discipline, especially if you've gotten used to having a victim mentality and you've gotten used to only seeing your situation through negativity. And that's the thing about being miserable, whether that was modeled to you or whether that's just something you picked up through life because you feel like, oh, just certain things aren't afforded to you, or you just don't want to make certain changes. A lot of people don't want to do what they need to do to get to the other side of stuff. And so first and foremost, you have to address the misery within yourself. You have to address the lack within yourself. You have to really look at, where am I thinking in a way that limits me from being more successful, from having more breakthrough, from being able to get to the other side of things? A lot of people don't put the time, the energy to do that. And so, like, you have to understand that, especially as like a chosen one, and as a person who God is working in your life, like, a lot of people will look at you and they'll see you as an example, but they don't want to learn from you. So even though you would be like the perfect candidate, you would be like the perfect person for them to learn from, not because you're perfect, not because you have life all figured out, not because you're God's gift to earth, but because you're doing the work. You get what I'm saying? So, like, every person has weaknesses, every person has strengths. So let's say, like, I'm not good at working out. Like, I don't know how to work out, I don't have like a routine, I don't have like a diet or whatever, right? Why would I not be open to learning from somebody who is better at that than me? Why would I not be open to asking that person, oh my God, I'm really trying to improve in that area, what do you recommend? But you have to understand, people who are prideful, people who are miserable, people who have to convince themselves that they know more than everybody else, they will not humble themselves to ask somebody, how did you do it? They will just look down on that person, or they may just like kind of pay attention to them from afar, but they won't really humble themselves to get the help that they need. And any type of success that you want to have in life, especially in something that you're not good at, you have to look to others. You have to look to those who have done it, and so many people, pride is honestly the number one thing that kills progress. Pride is the number one thing that kills growth. If you want to grow on any level, or if you want to become any thing in life, you have to be willing to hear information. It's not always going to automatically come from you. And I was listening to something earlier, and it was just explaining how, like, a lot of times people convince themselves that they're okay, that they're fine, they don't need help, they don't need anybody. Especially when people have like a very hyper independent type of mentality, where they think like it takes from them or makes them weak or makes them dumb to ask, or to just get help. And I really want to discourage people from having that type of mentality, because the reality is, like, you don't have to think like that. You don't have to go through life that way. And so I think one of the biggest things that God taught me really in 2025 is, like, a lot of people don't want to get out of their own way. Like, one of the worst things that you could ever do is be the type of person where, like, you don't want to grow, and then on top of that, you detest and you look down on other people that are growing. Like, another thing that people don't realize, like, you could attain a lot of things through working hard. You could attain a lot of things through money or material or whatever, but like certain blessings, you're never going to tap into them also, because you're always hating on other people that have it. Like, even if you don't have it, even if you feel like, dang, why not me, right? Like, learn to be happy for other people. Otherwise, it will never be your turn. And that's something that really goes a long way, just being humble and being grateful, like having a mentality of being grateful, counting your blessings, and being happy for others and speaking life into others. A lot of people don't know how to do that, and they don't know how to be happy for others. But then when other people aren't happy for them, other people can't acknowledge them, they're quick to notice that. They're quick to put shine a light on that. Oh yeah, that person can't be happy for me, or that person is jealous of me. But like, you have to also be honest with yourself, and you have to also look at the areas where you also feel like you can't be happy for others. If you struggle with some type of lack mentality, or you struggle with being happy for other people. So the next thing I really want to recommend is, if you want to stop choosing to be miserable, right? You have to understand, like, a lot of people think it's just their circumstances, or like they just can't help the position they are in life. But that is not true at all. You have to understand that you must make the choice to get away from anything that brings you down. If it's yourself, you have to really discipline yourself to stop being your own op. You got to discipline yourself to stop being your own opposition. Like, you got to discipline yourself to stop speaking death upon yourself. You really have to stop being mean to you. And a lot of times that's a lot of times the biggest battle. I honestly think that most people that are around miserable things and miserable people and miserable environments is because they're already miserable. They already don't like themselves. They already struggle with self-love. They can have all the bells and whistles and all the outer appearance of looking like they love themselves, but in reality, they're struggling and they're not being honest with themselves. I don't, so for me personally, I don't have the capacity to be around miserable people. And I don't have the capacity to be around anyone who complains about their life. I don't have the capacity to deal with being friends with someone who wants to act like they're a perpetual victim to everything they've ever been through in life. So I've often told this story where I used to have a coworker that would be super happy to always tell me about all her misfortunes. And when I was younger and more naive and I wasn't like aware of what was spiritually going on with this person or just people like this person, I just thought, oh, they just need help and they just need someone to talk to. And so I literally remember the day that I spoke with this person the very first time, and they were just like venting and talking to me. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was just like talking back and we were just talking. And I eventually realized through the course of the time, me being around this person, that they actually enjoyed their own misery. Like, they would get excited. It started getting disturbing for me when they would get excited to tell me bad things that were happening to them every weekend. Like, I started realizing like, oh, so like you kind of get off on this. Like, this is like a kick to you. And I realized that's not normal, right? And so after a while, I just little by little distanced myself from the person. And I'm sure they went around telling other people, because I can recall, like, oh, like she's mad at me or she doesn't deal with me anymore, she doesn't talk to me. And I was okay with that. I was okay with whatever narrative they were going to come up with, because I just felt like, man, this is just not someone I can be friends with. This is not someone that I can be around, because when you're around a miserable person, they're like a dark cloud on your rainy day. Like, you know what I'm saying? You could be this ray of sunshine, and here they come bringing misery and problems and issues. And so a lot of people like to be a perpetual victim. A lot of people like to act like they can't get out of their own way, or they can't get away from other people that are hurting them or affecting them. And honestly, you can. You don't have to stay friends with anybody. You don't have to stay in a relationship. You don't even have to stay dealing with people you're related to that make you miserable or that are abusive or cruel or unkind. Like, you don't have to deal with that. You are nobody's slave. Like, I wish more people understood that. Like, nobody can control you if you stop. Like, if you're in a situation where you can't get out because you just can't get out, that's one thing. You got to plan your escape. You get me? But if you're in a situation where all you have to do is cut ties and remove yourself, then by all means do that. Like, a lot of times, like, you got to understand, we really do teach people how to treat us. And so, like, the thing is, like, when you go for everything and you're super understanding and you giving people a lot of chances, like, they'll pay attention to that. And so as soon as you stop playing with you, people also pay attention to that, and they start realizing like, oh, you're not playing anymore. You're not putting up with the stuff you used to put up with. And they may villainize you for that, but that's okay, as long as you're protecting yourself now and you're keeping yourself out of harm's way. And so, yes, sometimes in order to be in a more healthy situation, you may have to be painted as a villain. You may have to go ahead and say, you know what, I gotta cut my losses because it's just not worth it. Like, I had somebody comment on the video I had posted today, and they were just like, yep, I've had to like let go of friendships because of this. And it's just like, yeah, like sometimes like the first time you peep it, the first time you see it, you might as well let it go, because people who are miserable, people who are envious, people who are narcissistic, they're not going to change until they want to change. And a lot of them, they will be in that same cycle forever. You will look up 10 years later and they're still in the same situation, 20 years later. You got to understand, life is happening now. The power is in your hands for you to dictate and determine what you want to and not want to put up with. And here's the thing, like, Some people, all they know is dysfunction. And when you start picking things that are healthy and pure and functional, they feel like they're being betrayed by you. They feel like you turned on them, like you changed, like you're not who you used to be. And here's the reality: yes, you did change. Yes, you did start to pick things that are better and healthier for you, but not because you're trying to switch up, not because you're trying to be cruel or divisive, but because you've realized I can't keep living the same way. Like if you keep living in stress and strife and problems, it creates sickness. It creates problems in your life. It creates just misery. You will be miserable, and who wants to be around that? Nobody. Nobody wants to be around anybody that's not happy, that's not, making decisions that promote, getting better and moving forward in life. And so I think more than anything, you have to understand, like, every day you wake up, you're making choices. If you're not happy where you're at right now, you have to make the decision to stop and say, you know what, like, where do I want to be tomorrow? What's in my life right now that I can't continue to keep putting up with? Like, you have to start subtracting things and then adding the stuff into your life that you actually want. You cannot be lackadaisy with what you want in life. Like, life is happening right now. So you have to understand, like, I have to put in the work now. I have to make the choices now. I have to do the things that I need to do now, not tomorrow, not later, not next week, not next year. You know what I'm saying? Some things are processed naturally, but you have to honestly understand, like, it's in your control. Like, you have to take control of your life, especially if you're an adult. You're not a child anymore. You're not someone that has to march to the beat of somebody else's drum. Like, you have to choose. You have to want it. You have to go after it. And so more than anything, this is what I want people to understand. Until you take full accountability for your life, until you understand that you are responsible for where you're at, for what you have, for what you don't have, you will always be miserable. You have to understand that you are responsible for creating the life that you want. If you don't take the responsibility, your peace will keep evading you. Peace will keep running away from you. The things that you want, the life that you could have, the things that you see other people have, and you want to act like you can't have that, or you think it's not fair, or you just think it's easier for them. No, it's not. And that's something that I find very interesting about people who make a lot of excuses, people who live miserable, people who are envious of others. They will just convince themselves that it's everybody else's, like, it's easier for everybody else. It's just not easy for them, not understanding and not respecting the fact that no, it's just as hard for everybody else as it is you. Choosing to want better in life is going to take work. It's going to take you inconveniencing yourself. It's not going to be easy. You are going to go through stuff. You are going to have to let go of people and a life that you thought you were going to have at some point. Like, you have to honestly understand and be honest with yourself about the fact that life isn't just going to happen because you want it to happen or you want it to turn out a certain way. And you cannot force anybody to take the journey with you. I think this is where a lot of people get stuck at too, because they think like they could just convince other people to want what they want and do what they want. You cannot force anybody's hand, and you cannot make anyone give into, your will or what you want for them, right? And it becomes very controlling, and it becomes very what's the word I'm looking for? It just becomes very manipulative when you think that you can convince people to want something that they don't want. By all means necessary, I think it's important to love on those that are around you, encourage them, pray for them, pray God's will for their life, but you cannot make someone who you want them to be. Right? Like, you have to accept people as they are, and you have to be able to see if they are equally yoked to you. And if they are equally yoked, if they do see things the way you see things, if they do want the things that you want for them, and that, if you're working towards the same goals, it makes it easier, right? Versus like you're trying to change somebody into being something that they're not. The same way, like if you're in an environment or a space, or you're in a city or at a job, and you just want it to be what you want it to be, and you won't take it for what it is. I feel like a lot of people also struggle with this, where like they can't accept the reality that they're living in. So then they spend a lot of time trying to change it in a way that's not realistic. You have to be able to accept that sometimes some stuff is not just going to change because you just want it to be different, because you just want it to be a certain way. Life is not going to bend to your what's this word I'm looking for? To your preference. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of people are like that. Like they have their preferences, they have their things that they want, and then they just want everything to go their way. Like, no, that's not how life is either. Like you have to also adjust. And sometimes that could be the most grievous part of change. That could be one of the most grievous parts of wanting better for yourself, is accepting that sometimes where you thought you were going to get it and who you thought you were going to get it from, you're not going to get it there. And you have to be able to adapt and pivot. And a lot of people don't want to do that, you know? And so God gives us so many opportunities to get the thing right. And even in the journey, we have to learn how to adjust. We have to learn how to say, okay, you know what? Clearly, if God led me to this point and it's not what I thought it was, I need to humble myself and I need to recognize and realize that God is taking me a different way, or God's opening my eyes to the fact that it's just not going to go the way that I thought it was going to go. And that's okay too. But when you dig your heels, sorry, I keep moving the camera, y'all, because I feel like my lighting has changed. When you dig your heels into the ground and you're just like, I want what I want it the way I want it, and you just sit there and pout and kick your legs out, it's never gonna be what you want it to be. Like, it's just not. And it may look, listen, we all go through moments and times where we're disappointed, but don't let disappointment change your attitude. Don't have a bad, funky, nasty attitude because you just didn't get what you wanted out of life, because you just didn't get it from who you wanted and where you wanted. No, like, happiness is a choice. Joy is a choice. You have to choose to want certain, to look at the positive in life. And a lot of people is like, they don't know how to do that. They only know how to complain. They only know how to constantly harp on the same stuff over and over and over and over and over and over again. People who are making moves, people who are going from glory to glory to glory, from success to success, they don't have time for negativity. They don't have time for dead weight. They don't have time for sitting there and being a victim to their own life. Like, you have everything that you need to be who you want to be successful. You have to get away from perfectionism. You have to get away from caring about what people think about you. And if you take the journey with God and you allow God to clean up your life, God will teach you that through the journey, and you will realize what God wants for you is better than anything that you could cook up or make up for yourself. I say this all the time. But if you are resistant to change, if you are resistant to growth, if you are resistant to things being different, life is never going to be a certain way for you, because you have to understand, like, other people got to success and to where you want to be by being flexible, by being open, by being honest, by humbling themselves. Like, nobody's life goes the way they want it to go all the time. They just don't, you know? And you know, what I love so much about this video I have posted today, because I thought it was a great video. I didn't know if it was going to resonate as much as it did with people, because sometimes I'm really aware when I post something if it's going to take off, and other times I'm like, oh, it could not, sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But one thing that I really love that a lot of people kept saying is just like, when you are a person who chooses growth, you become a mirror to other people, right? And so you have to understand, like, when you're looking at other people who are at where you want to be, they're a mirror to you. I heard something this week that was so good, and it was like, you can't tell me something's impossible or I can't have something if somebody else out there already has it. And I thought that was so amazing, because a lot of times people will say that something is not realistic, but how is it not realistic if somebody in real life has it, right? Now, of course, we don't sometimes know how people attain things. And sometimes, like, of course, if you're going to go about getting something in the right way, it may take you longer. Because obviously, like, you got to be very careful. You could be comparing where you're at. Let's say, like, you're trying to do things God's way, right? So you could be comparing your journey to somebody who's fully serving the devil and did something wicked or evil to get to where they're at, And obviously, if you don't want that, you're not going to look at that and say, oh, okay, yeah, like, it's very dangerous to compare yourself, because you don't know what you're comparing yourself to, right? But honestly, if you want to go about doing things in the right way, if you want to go about doing things in the God way, like, you could get there. You could become that person, but you have to have patience. You have to have humility. You have to be able to adjust, and you have to want it. Like, you have to want it more than you've ever wanted anything else. And the journey itself will teach you that. A lot of times, especially as chosen ones, people will look at you and they'll think like you wouldn't have gotten there without help, or you're not worth that, or like, oh, they just kind of downplay what you've been able to accomplish, right? But like what a lot of people also understand is if it weren't for God, you wouldn't be there, you know? And that's the other aspect of it, the spiritual aspect of it. Like a lot of times people are not being cruel to you. They're just treating you the way they treat God. They're just looking at you the way they treat God. Like they don't want to see God really move and work in their life. They don't really want to surrender. They don't really want to give up control. A lot of people are very controlling. A lot of people struggle with submitting to God. They don't like to having to give up their own will. You know what I'm saying? So like when you see somebody really receiving God's blessings, it's because they really did things God's way. You don't get to a blessing from God without allowing God to take over and allowing Jesus to take the wheel. But people don't understand that. You see what I'm saying? And so they'll be upset because they'll look at other people and they know like it's a message. They know it's like they're not dumb. They don't have to be super deep or spiritual or know what you know. Like they know, man, like you really went through the gutter. Like you really made the sacrifices and now you're at where you're at. They may try to lecture you or talk to you like they know better than you or like, you know, they're more ahead than you. And that's fine. Let them think whatever they want to think. At the end of the day, like the truth speaks, the fruit speaks. And if you are living a life that is God honoring, you will be fruitful and you will make it to where you're supposed to be. And so I encourage every person watching this, don't allow yourself to ever be around misery, and understand that when you're looking at other people and they cannot be happy for you or they just have their own set of issues, like just draw those boundaries, you know, because they're going to drain you. Like you don't owe people space for misery. Like if they want to change and they want to grow and they want to be better, then they will get to those things. But if not, it's on them. You know what I'm saying? Because life is going to keep going by and nobody wants to look up. The worst thing is looking up 5 years from now and being in the same position you was before, the same mindset, the same problems, the same drama, the same chaos. Like nobody wants that. You know what I'm saying? So to me, I just find it exhausting. Like I think honestly, I made the connection by my mid-20s. Like, yo, it's all in what you want and it's all in what you talk about and it's all in what you accept in life. And if you want better, you will get there. But if you keep entertaining the same stuff, the same dead end, if you keep trying to carry the same people on your back who don't want to change, don't want to progress, don't want better for themselves, it's never going to be anything different. It's going to be the same thing over and over and over and over, y'all. It's crazy, but you know, like all you could do is really just be a light in this world and just pray to God that God can minister and help people when they're ready. You know, because some people are just not going to be ready. Some people are just not going to want it. Some people are just not going to do the work, but they're going to feel entitled to the results. And it don't work like that. You want the results, you got to put the work in. You know what I'm saying? You want the beach body, you got to go to the gym. You got to go for a walk or a run. You got to eat right. Like you're not entitled to the results just because you think you are. You're not entitled to what other people have just because you want to believe and pretend that you're that person. Like it don't work like that. And you could read all the books, you could gain all the information, but if you never take the steps, if you never take the action, like you can't spend your whole life talking about what you're gonna do, talking about what you're not gonna put up with anymore. You know, telling other people I'm sick, I'm tired of this, until you finally decide I'm going to take action. I'm not talking anymore. I'm not asking. I'm going for it. Nothing will change. You want change, it's going to be inconvenient. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be judged. You're going to be misunderstood. And it's not going to be an uphill climb all the time either. It's going to be valleys. It's going to be dips. It's going to be moments where it looks like nothing's working out in your favor. But if you stick the course, if you have faith, if you fix your attitude, you can get there. You really can. And you can break out of whatever it is that's limiting you. You may not have a lot of support along the way. You may not have the things that you would like to have, but you will have what you need. One thing that I can say is when you give your life to God and you walk with God, He may not always give you what you think you want, but He will give you what you need. And whatever you have right now, this is the last thing I'm going to give y'all before I get off. You might think I don't have everything that I need. I can't do everything that I need to do. When you decide I'm going to do it, come hell, come high water, whatever you have is enough. Whatever resources God has already given you, He will multiply it. And it goes back to that parable in the Bible about the 3 men and the different talents and how they were all given a different set amount of gifts or talents. And the ones that multiplied it, the one that buried it into the ground. I don't have that memorized on top of my head right now. Y'all didn't write that down. But if you guys know the story in the Bible, or just go back and read it, right? about the I believe it was, I forgot who it was. It was like they had like a master. It was like a master and his servants, and he gave them certain gifts and talents. So you have to understand, like, God can't bless what you don't multiply. God can't bless what you don't put the work into. You know what I'm saying? Like, people, the problem that we have with today's day and age is that people see social media and they see a lot of people's success. We were never really supposed to be able to see so much of other people's lives, but that's the day and age that we live in, right? And so a lot of times people think that, you know, money alone or material or connections alone will get them the things that they want. But a lot of times what people want are the things that money can't buy. And so that starts with really investing internally with oneself. You have to really look within. You have to really correct who you are. You have to really do the work. You have to go to therapy. You have to do some type of internal work. A lot of times, the reason why people are miserable is because they don't want to look within. They don't want to unpack their life. They don't want to unpack the things that happened because they're just trying to run away from the past. They figure, if I can just get all the external things, if I can just look the part and look the role, everything else is fine. If I'll be a workaholic, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll go there, I'll look real cute, I'll look real pretty, I'll buy this, I'll do that. And that's great and that's fabulous. And there's nothing wrong with having nice things or making good money or working hard. But you have to also look internally. What are the internal things you need to change? What is the way that you want to be different inside? The way you look at yourself, your emotions. Do you know how to regulate your emotions? Do you know how to take a deep breath and not, just like go off? Like, you have to really work on the parts of yourself that struggles. If you have addictions and vices, why do you keep turning to those things instead of turning to God? We're living in a day and age now where people are very spiritual. People will go to church, people will read the Bible, but you're not following the word. You know what I'm saying? You're not doing the inconvenient things for spirituality and for faith. You will fast, but you're only doing it for your figure. You're not doing it because you're trying to gain that closeness with God. And so there's a way to fast, of course, for health reasons, and health is very important. Your body is very important, not to negate that, right? But you also have to understand, to tap into the higher parts of who you are, the spiritual parts of who you are, it's important to also do these things, to commune with God, to spend time with God, to make sacrifices that will also improve you spiritually, mentally, emotionally. And I just encourage people to at least try it. Try these things. It's okay if you don't get it right every time. And don't be so hard on yourself, and give yourself grace. Give yourself grace so that even if you fall, or even if it's difficult, or even if you don't know how you're going to do it and how you're going to make it to the other side, God will step in and God will intervene in those areas. Like, you just have to understand, and the Holy Spirit gave this to me this week. A lot of times, the habitual things that are the hardest for us to change are trauma responses. Like, the parts of you that are most difficult for you to change and for you to see breakthrough in, is because you have developed these habits in order to survive, right? And so it will take a little longer sometimes, and a little more patience and due diligence and discipline to let go of those bad habits. But you have to always keep trying. Never give up. Never give up, and never get comfortable being miserable. Never get comfortable in depression. Never get comfortable in not renewing your mind. Every false burden, every vain imagination, cast it unto God. That's what the word of God says. And when you begin to put into practice the word of God, your faith, things will change. Things will move in your favor. Stuff will turn around. You will be like, wow, I should have did this sooner, right? So listen, it takes time for things to change because it's repetition, but it's not that hard. Make it simple. Make it easy on yourself. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others, and learn to get to the root of what it is that prevents you from being the person that God has called you to be and doing the things that you really want to do. You have to want to get out of your own way. And what I've realized about a lot of miserable people is that they don't want to do that. They like the attention that they get from complaining. They like the attention that they get from harping on the same stuff all the time, because that's all they know. And if you cannot live like that anymore, if you've decided, like, just understand, you're going to have to change a lot of things. You're going to have to change your circumstance. You're going to even have to change your environment. You're gonna have to leave a lot of things behind to get to that breakthrough. And it's gonna be very worth it when you do. It's going to come with a lot of just joy and just progress and just all the things that you could have ever dreamed and wanted for yourself. And I want that for you all too. So if this spoke to you, I have so many different videos here on my channel. I would love for you to go ahead and check out. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and join my Diamond Air community. And I also want you to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. Leave me a comment below. Let me know how this ministered to you. I just really appreciate everyone who's watching. Here on my channel, I talk about all things faith, the Christian faith. I also expose things on spiritual trauma. And I'm going to be speaking a lot more on femininity moving forward. I just really love to encourage people and to help people in whatever they're dealing with. And I just think it's very important for you all to know that there is an identity that God wants you to have. There's breakthrough that God has for you. And you have to really start with addressing your life and being honest about who you are and what God has for you. And when you start to do that, and when you start to really unpack the lies of your trauma, which is the things that you've grown comfortable with throughout your life, the things that you thought were normal or that were normalized for you, you will begin to get that breakthrough, and you will begin to see the other side of things when you let go of stuff that is not healthy and that is chaotic and that is just confusion, y'all, spirit of confusion, just stuff that's just not good. Like, start with letting go of negativity. Start with really choosing the thoughts that you put into your mind. The same way you would go into your closet and choose your outfit, every day choose your thoughts. The mind is the battlefield. This is where the enemy fights us the most. The devil likes to just bring doubt and bring fear, and you don't want to live in fear. You don't want to live in lack. What you want to go after is abundance, is life, is joy, is peace. And understand that you have the power. It is in you. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead is inside you. And whatever is dead in your life, God can come in and raise that thing from the dead and allow you to live a life that's beyond your wildest dreams. All right, so I hope this ministered, y'all. I appreciate everybody for watching. I'll go ahead and catch y'all on the next one. Y'all have a good night, good morning, good evening, well, good afternoon, wherever you are. Catch y'all on the next one.